series of crimes in America.
Good morning all, can you hear me? Hopefully you can. Though this music does seem pretty loud. I haven't changed anything, as always. So, different time of day, different lighting. There's actually a window next to me that's open and the sunlight shining in. Makes a difference. I don't feel like I'm in a bat cave like I normally am. So yeah, I didn't get to stream last night. I had a bunch of other things that I needed to handle, so sorry about that. But instead, we're going to do it today, and the aim is to get about 90 minutes worth of development-related stuff done. So I will keep the introduction fairly brief. There's probably not that many people that are going to get to join me now anyway, so which isn't a problem. So what we're going to do... Tea. Always have your tea. Today I have 1 whole litre of Gyokuro. Brewed to perfection. Oh, so good. I'll be chowing down on that a fair bit over the course of the next hour and a half. I'll find a nice spot on my desk so I don't knock it over. Okay, the plan today is we're going to quickly implement bind TCP stages and support directly in Meterp. And then hopefully, depending on how long that takes, we'll manage to get through implementing all of the transport commands. So adding, we did transport list on the last one. We want to do transport add, transport remove, and be able to switch between the two. And that's basically the aim of what it is that we're going to do today. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. If not, great, sit tight, and hopefully you guys will learn something. So let me just bring up my virtual machine. If you have trouble hearing me, then please let me know that as well. I'm guessing I'm going to be flying pretty much by myself, given the time of day. But that's okay. You guys hopefully will get to see this down the track. Righto. So to begin with, first thing I'm going to need to do, actually there's 2 things we need to do. First is we need to implement a listener on the Meterp side, and then we need to go and implement the payload on the Metasploit side. So I'm going to change this to simple, make this reverse TCP, because we're going to need a simple bind TCP stage test inside this app. We might actually go down and do the copy pasta thing here. Simple bind TCP. Righto, so we aren't going to be using a TCP client this time, are we? Maybe we are. New TCP listener. Okay, so we'll call it state convention TCP listener, which is new TCP listener. Now I'm sure we can give it some parameters. Endpoint, local address. I wonder if there's a way of basically saying bind to all. Maybe this is what this one does. Listens on the specified port. Man, as you can tell, there's a bit more noise in the neighborhood. Let's do Let's move this down here. And we'll keep the ports the same. Can tell us first thing in the morning. Initialize. Okay, so this is deprecated. This method, please use IP address, local address import instead. Okay, well let's do that. IP address. Let's go net.system.net.ip address. I wonder if there's a static on here that's, there we go, any. Provides an IP address in case the server must listen for client activity on all network interfaces. Let's start with that. Okay, and then what do we need to do? TCP listener dot accept TCP client. Accept socket. Accept depending. Yeah, so we want to basically get exactly that. Start. So we want to start a listener. And then from there, once we've started, I assume that we want to go TCP listener dot accept TCP client. Now we don't need to connect. I assume that we check that. It shouldn't return null and it's connected. I wonder if there's parameters here. Like can we specify a timeout? Starts listening for incoming connection requests, the maximum number of pending connection. We should probably only pull like one. It's basically what we should do. Is a listener a disposable? No, it doesn't look like it is. Interesting. Is a TCP client disposable? Don't think that is it? Yeah, it is. Do we actually dispose it? Or we don't? Oh, we dispose of it elsewhere, don't we? Yep. Okay, so this should effectively do everything that we want it to do, right? We'll do a check. Now I need to make sure that the firewall is actually going to work. We may have Windows complain that we're listening on a certain port. Let's have a look. Just build that and let's see what happens when I run it. Because I haven't done this for quite a while. This should actually be legit. Yeah. We'll allow access. Okay, so that should just sit there and hang. Okay. Right, time to go back into Metasploit land. Okay, so we need to go into modules, payloads, stagers. Let's go into, which one are we looking at the moment? CLR2, isn't it? Yeah, CLR2. So we'll start with CLR2 and we'll just copy pasta. CP Windows bind TCP. We'll just keep bind TCP for now, and we'll gbim bind. Alright, so what do we got here? Payload. So first of all, we need to get rid of all references to Windows and put CLR2. Payload. Did we actually do this bit here for reverse? I don't think we did. Oh, I wonder why these are in here. We probably don't need command shell options in here, do we? I think I'll worry about that later on. So we'll need basically the same thing as this. Reverse, and we'll make that bind TCP. Bind TCP stager. Listen for a connection. Is that what this says? We should probably normalize these, hey? Okay, and those platform, what did we decide that was? That was Win and Arch. CLR, oops, CLR2. Don't think we need a convention or anything like that, do we? Yeah, we got rid of that, and that's effective. Oops. You hate it when you do that. All right, so that should be pretty much all we need on this side. And now we need to go and create this CLR2 bind TCP thing. So what do we need to do? That would be in lib msf. Oh, we've got a comment. Hey, Smash. Welcome to the stream, mate. Yeah, we're doing bind. So we've done reverse. We're just going to do bind, and the reason we're doing bind is because then we've got all of the transports ready to go for implementing transport add on the fly. So that's the go. It's nice to see you on, mate. Lib msf core payload CLR2. So let's take a copy of Windows. Is it in here? Yep. Bind TCP. And we'll open that one up. We'll actually open up reverse TCP as well to make sure that we are consistent. Ooh, look at this. We don't need any of those. Let's take a copy of that and change that to bind. Payload, this will be CLR2. We only need these. Okay, so what do we got here? Payload bind port. Yep, so that's basically exactly what we would expect to see. Generate. That's right, this section here is it's probably something that we need to tweak anyway. L port and L host, so we don't need. This is interesting here, right? Why is there a payload bind port inside the reverse TCP stager? Port to bind reverse TCP. Oh yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Right, ignore that. All right, so we do need L port. The whole idea of reliability can go away because when it comes to .NET stages, we don't really have the constraints that the native stages have. Okay, so we don't need exit func. In fact, that's pretty much all we need, from what I can tell. Bind, because at the moment we're binding to all interfaces. We don't specify which interface to bind to at this stage. We bind on all. Now, transport config, generate. Okay, so that's what I thought. We're going to do the same thing here. This is where the TCP, we'll call that bind, TCP stager goes. Okay, we'll just leave that stuff for now and we'll get rid of all of the assembly, of which there is quite a bit. Get rid of the recv block. And native stuff is significantly more complex, isn't it? Okay, so that should be pretty much it on this side. Did we do everything we did? Yep, we needed to do here. Let's get rid of some of these new lines. Hey, Bitwise! Okay, so with that out of the way, Bitwise, you just resubbed. Thanks, mate. Your support, as always, is very much appreciated, dude. Hey, by the way, you need to, in Discord, you need to bind your Twitch account to Discord. Just so you know, Bitwise. If you haven't done, I'm going to harass you about that off stream. Okay. Now, what else is it that we need here? I don't think we really need much else. Yeah, I don't think we need much else. So what we should probably do is go back up to the root. Let's quickly open up this. And we're going to set up a bind TCP set L host. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to go R port 444. I'm pretty sure it was all the 4s, wasn't it? For 32. Yep. So R port multi-handler set payload. We're going to have, let's put it down here. This will be CLR2 Meterpreter reverse TC, not reverse, bind TCP. That should be okay. And we'll do the same for CLR4 when that comes about. Now, I'm not expecting this to work, by the way. But let's see. Let's see what happens. Did what I just do make absolute sense? It didn't make sense, did it? Why did I do that? There's like... Let's set that to true. We don't need to run -j. I'm just going to leave that like that. And do MSF console again. There's no such thing as a bind listener on the MSF side, right? We need to forcibly run it. Okay, so let's kick this off again. And have it sitting there waiting for a connection in case this does actually work. So if we have a look at the options, we should have, we haven't specified an R host. Okay, so what's the IP of this machine again? 130. Okay, set R host to, oops. Do we really need to specify a target? I don't think we do we? The good thing is this actually loaded, so it looks like we're in the right spot, yeah? So let's hit run. Ah, jeez. Set R port 4444. I don't understand why we've got L port here. What have I done wrong? Clearly I'm missing something. Die Soccer, hello. Yeah, Bitwise, man, he's been dishing out the gifts recently. It's a naughty boy. Okay, that didn't seem to do anything, did it? Right, so hang on, if we go set payload, Windows Meterpreter bind TCP. So let's use the native one. I'm going to set a breakpoint just here. Okay, so that actually did connect. So we're missing something on the MSF side, which isn't entirely surprising. What are we actually missing? What are we missing? Exit -y. Let's beam this up again. So that does need to be L port, not R port. Payload CLR2 Meterpreter bind TCP excellent session. True, and then we're just going to leave it sitting there. So there's something else that we're missing clearly. Let's quickly go back down our rabbit hole of going gvim modules, payloads, stages, I'm just going to have a look at bind TCP again. Payload Windows bind TCP. So we've got payload. Maybe what I need to do is make sure that the bind related stuff is behaving. Module. I don't think there's anything in stages because that's just Meterp, right? Yeah, so that's going to remain exactly the same. That platform, oh man, platform should be Win, not Windows. I thought I'd fixed that. Set that back. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else I need to do down here. There's got to be something in lib, MSF core, payload, CLR2. I'm pretty sure that the stuff in here is working as expected, right? So let's just quickly check. Maybe there's something in the listener we need to worry about. I was hoping this wasn't going to be painful, hey? Hey, Mermis! Welcome to the stream, dude. How's it going? Yo, yo, yo. As you can see, I'm flapping about in MSF land again, trying to figure out which gaps I haven't filled to make this work. So maybe maybe we need to go in here. Let's see if there's anything special in here I need to worry about. Host. Start handler, okay. Let me try the same host port combination. Just trying to figure out exactly where the doohickey works. Shroomagine? Host IP and host port match. Yeah, man. I'm pretty sure that they do, and we'll validate that again in just a second. What I should actually do is put the IP address from CMD, wherever that went. Did I close it? Yeah, I did. This one here, yeah? I should put that in here. Set our host to this. So that's definitely right because pretty good, kind of crazy, and they actually catch me. Yeah, man. I was gonna say it's a rare event. Our time zone is usually making that very difficult. Hey. Yeah. So I'll call you Shrew. Shrew. It definitely is right because when I did it with the native payload, the connection came through with the same settings. So something else is going on. So let's do the painful debugging. So starts monitoring for outbound connection to become established. I would assume that we're going to get here somehow, right? Mostly updated. I don't think there's anything particularly concerning in here. So let's do the standard error.puts thing. Shroom. Okay, I'll call you Shroom. Sorry about that, mate. This is what I normally do in Ruby because it's painful to know. There's nothing here. Framework thread spawn. So that's going to come all the way down to here and finish up. So what we need to do is print status started handler. So we know we got to this, right? Rex TCP socket create. So this is basically where we're trying to get to, yeah? I should turn verbose messaging on, hey? And I should also turn on, look at the tail of the logs again. So let's just do that. Make this come down a little bit. Tail dash F, MSF logs, framework. Ooh. Okay. Let's beam this up again. Set G verbose true. Okay. Let's give this another go. I should get the server running again, shouldn't I? The Postgres server going again. Spin up our listener. Make sure we've got everything set. Yep, we do. That's definitely pointing to the same thing. So, oh, that worked that time. I didn't. Okay. It works. Now I'm doubting myself, Shroom. Now I'm actually thinking maybe I didn't do what I thought I did. Let's get rid of those debug statements. The bug was in yourself. Yes, yes. Thank you. I feel like Neo. Just without the ability. That's upsetting, but it's also a good thing, right? We can close that one down. Sessions-K. I know. Yeah, thanks, man. It's the reason why the Postgres service isn't running is because it was upgraded recently, and I've got to go and do a bunch of database, upgrade bits and pieces. So it's not just a matter of it does auto start. The problem is, the upgrade has caused some config and file-related issues. I just haven't got around to fixing it yet, but I will do that. What a noob. All right, well, while we're here then, let's do this. We are going to change... Did I change this, did I? Oh, I added a new line? That's weird. Let's get rid of that change. Okay, so what we should be able to do is go CP that to CLR 4. And we'll do the same with the stages. And then let's vim these puppies up. How much work do you think would be to decup? Oh, that's a very, very big question. To be honest, I wouldn't necessarily think it's tied too tightly to Postgres, although I'm sure I'm wrong in saying that. But there was a decision a while ago to disconnect it from, what was it? SQLite. There's no longer a SQLite option. But yeah, I guess it would probably be a non-trivial amount of work. But given that you do need a database system behind the scenes to track all of the things like the workspaces and all that sort of nonsense, it's good to have a DB, and it's not like it's a pain in the butt to set up. So, how much work do you think... Oh, I've already answered that. What VPN service do you prefer to use? I use a mixture depending on the client and the need. I use private internet access, ExpressVPN. They're the primary two. Yeah, but I don't use them that much. It's only for when I need to pretend to look like I'm coming from somewhere else. Hey Bandit, how you going, man? No, we are definitely not doing get system just yet. That will come. Now we're just implementing bind TCP because we want to fill out the rest of the commands for transport add, transport remove, and flicking between transports. So what I wanted to do was make sure that we had all the transports in place so that we could actually support all of them when we implement it. Okay, we also need to change CLR 2, don't we? That's CLR 4. And that should be pretty much it. Obviously, we need to go through the pain of creating these stages. But for the most part, that should be fairly trivial. The question is, in what format do we want to generate it? We want to generate compiled versions. If we had something like mono installed locally, do we just want to generate the C#? Do we want to wrap it in ASPX tags? All that sort of thing. Currently, I'm setting up a honeypot system on a spare system and doing my monitoring from... Okay, so with those out of the way, I should be able to open this up again, and this time we'll try CLR 4. Let's flick over to set as startup. CLR 4 though is 4447. Actually, we should be able to just keep it the same port, given that we're not really having multiple listeners up at the same time. So let's just leave it at that. Okay, build. Run. Yep. Okay, and let's see if this works nicely out of the box. Thanks for joining me on stream this morning, everyone. It's very nice of you. Pretty glorious day here. Alrighty. Oh, that one didn't work. The value specified for the payload is not valid. Well, isn't that upsetting? Really? Did I miss something? So let's exit out of that. Exit out of that. Oop. Stages. Okay, let's just have a look. Payload CLR4, payload CLR4. Yep, so that's right, isn't it? CLR4, payload CLR4 bind TCP, payload CLR4 bind TCP. Okay. Payload stages failed to load due to the following error. Name error, uninitialized constant. MSF payload CLR4 bind TCP. Payload CLR4 bind TCP. What did I do wrong? Call stack. Bind TCP line 14, which would be this. Ah, that's why. I didn't include the right one. Isn't it amazing how easy it is to get this stuff wrong? Copy paste. Always lets me down. Let's try that again. And hopefully this time we won't see a crash. That's better. Ooh. Oh yeah, I need to hit go. All right. Oops. Sessions-X. Looks like things are working as we would expect, which is cool. Okay, so now what we need to do is like the resilient transport thing, right? So that means I need to be able to reconnect to the existing handler. Problem that we've got here, right, is we should actually, you know what we'll do? Transport list. Now this is interesting because this thing here, okay, first bug, right? We need to get rid of this. For some reason, this 129 is being sent through in the URL for the configuration, which is absolutely wrong. We do not want that. Glowing rectangle cults. Real quick, what are you working on? Hang on, I'll show you. Bang, what? There you go. There's your answer. Doesn't get much quicker. Right now, though, what we're working on is just implementing a subset of commands for transport management. You are welcome. Hey, Wolf. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, Glowing, if you have any more questions, mate, just pump them into the chat. We will make it all happen. So the question that we should probably answer right now is we want to see what happens when, like, whether or not the configuration that we were given is actually what we were looking for. Start and follow. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Man, there's other people who have followed as well. I didn't even see a notification come through. Zero Steiner. Didn't realize you were on stream, dude, but thank you. Yeah, so what I want to do is just quickly validate that the configuration is being deserialized properly. Let's go back to .NET 3.5. Set startup, that's what we want. Oh no, hang on, wrong one, that one there. Set as startup. Followed a while back, sorry, just meant, right, gotcha. My bad. Yeah, thanks, appreciate it, mate. Always happy to see that people are following along. But yeah, if you have any suggestions or commentary, then, you know, chuck them in chat, man. Everyone out there's got some good ideas to share. Now, what am I looking for? Config. Right, so TCP transport. Config. So what I'd like to do is breakpoint here. I may sneeze. I feel a sneeze coming on. So let's spin that up again. Exit. Go back to CLR 2 and go again. Started C# class this semester, but the teacher was hot garbage. That's a shame. Nothing worse than that. Like when you get a really good teacher that loves the topic, man, they make such a huge difference. Usually learn following well-written code. No, thanks, dude. Well, you know, we've got a C# discussion channel in Discord. So like if you've got questions, even if they're not related to what we're streaming, and chuck them in there. Like everyone's keen to learn and share some thoughts on stuff. So you should totally do that. Yep, get in on it, my friend. Okay, so let's kick that off. I just want to see what the config looks like. So at this stage, there you go. So the URI has already, where are we? Transport config. I should probably have shoved the breakpoint here. Yeah, actually that's what I'm going to do. Let's set a breakpoint just here. Because this is what's coming off the wire, and I want to see if we're actually getting that sent down the wire. And I was at tape out of class for Java. Oh, you have my condolences. Java. RIP Java. Let's try that again. Okay, so the URL here. Okay, so we're getting something that we shouldn't be getting. And actually maybe that's because this is really interesting. We may well have discovered a very subtle, quirky little bug here. X-Y, oops. What we want to do is gvim. What do we want? I know it's in my history. No, it's not this one, is it? Thank you for the follow, Shroom. Very much appreciated. Transport config bind. So, def, here it is. So in here, we have a transport config bind TCP. Why are we putting lhost in there? So this may well be it. This may well be the problem. So I can solve this problem right now by modifying this here and setting set lhost. I should say unset lhost. Oh, Kojima, he's donating subs. Thanks, man. I shouldn't assume, man. Thank you. Decent human being. You are a legend. Sean, I didn't even know you were on. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're doing C++ now, Glowing. Man, that's well and truly in my lane too. Look, we've got a C# chat, but chuck whatever questions you got in there, man. Like it doesn't matter. Always tilted. I reckon this will actually fix it. So let's run that. So the URL, oh no, it doesn't. It still has it in there. Why does it still have it in there? I'm really confused now, because lhost isn't a thing. Oops. Did I not rebuild this? There we go. So unsetting it's not enough. I've actually got to set it to blank. This is really important for bind TCP, by the way, because we actually use this to determine whether or not the transport is a reverse connection or a bind connection. Maybe that's something that we should specifically set. That's my current feeling. So this thing here, I'm tempted to do this. Make sure this is blank. It's important. I need to think about that a bit. Kojima, you are a legend, my friend. Thank you very much. Your support is always appreciated. Sit tight. We'll catch you again soon. Thanks for jumping on. Okay, so this is where it's going to get a little bit fun. And the reason why we looked into that to begin with is because we need to know whether or not the URI has a host in it. And if it doesn't have a host in it, then that's an indication that we're going to be using bind TCP instead. Okay, so let's run that again. Ooh, what happened here? I think I might know what's going on now. Let's just do that again. Wouldn't it just have been easy to have a flag? Well, yeah, it was just a case. Okay, do we pollute the configuration with more stuff that's specific to TCP when it's kind of obvious to go, you know what, if there's no host, then we're bind rather than a reverse. That was effectively the rationale. Excuse me. I wonder if it's this, like, trying to create a URI that's not valid that causes it to buff. Nah. Interesting. So a URI has to have a host for it to be valid. That's a bit annoying. Are we doing this? The URI itself is probably not that important for anything other than HTTPS connection. So maybe we can just move the move that to a different location. Zetsec, hello. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for jumping on. Okay, so where is this? config.uri.port. Okay, so it's reconnecting on TCP. Yeah. So how are we going to solve this problem? I don't really want to manually add like localhost or something similar and then check to see if it's localhost. We could change the scheme, but see, the thing is, as soon as we start mucking with the configuration itself, we end up in a bit of a world of hurt. Man, why is it that .NET requires something formal? How annoying. Okay, so how about we do this? This is pretty gross, not gonna lie, what I'm about to suggest. System.net.ip address.any. I want to see what this looks like. That's basically what I want to know, right? Now, let me just comment that out for a sec. Build this. This could well be a cheat that we can abuse. But it does mean some slight hackery, which is never nice, right? 0.0.0.0, really? That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what we might do is, if we look at the documentation for system.net.uri, okay, we can see sorry, I was just reading the chat. In the constructor, it can throw an exception. URI format exception. That's probably the one we need to worry about. So if we go like this, if we try and if we catch a URI format exception, then we know that it's not a valid URI. And what we should be able to do is basically say, because the URL doesn't contain the detail that we're looking for, but the URI can, so that it continues to behave. And so we should be able to just do a very simple split. So if we end up with this is pretty awful, and I'm open to suggestions here, right? This.url.split. Sorry, url.split. Split that on the colon, because that is going to give us the exact point that we're looking for. So we will end up with basically the first part being TCP, the second part being // and the third part being the port, right? So then all we need to do is go, the URL will be a string.format of whatever the scheme is, so the first part, followed by the second part. And in here we're going to add something extra, followed by the last part. Okay, so that's going to be, actually I'm going to call this P because I'm lazy. So P0, P1. Here we're going to go system.net.ip-address.any, and then that's going to be P2. And then from here we should be able to go and set the URI to the URL. Does that make sense? So let's give that a go. Build. Let's run that. Okay, so this should hopefully catch the exception, split things into the parts that we were expecting, TCP / port number. We rebuild the URL so that it has any in it. Okay, see you, Smash. Thanks for coming on, man. And then if we rebuild this URI, that should be then legit. At which point, later on, when we the URL that we return when we're actually listing the configuration will remain as it was, which is important. And then later on, when we're doing this connection thing, we basically need to check the URI, and we can say if this.config, config.uri.host equals system.net.ip-address.any.toString, then that means bind TCP. Else, we're doing a reverse. Okay, so if we're doing bind, we need to basically do what we did in our program. Wherever that is, here it is. So we need to do this. Okay, so we don't need to do any of these. Once we've got the TCP client in place, we should actually have a timeout here as well. Boom, basement hacks. How's it going? Okay, so we need to do that. Okay, that should work. Var client equals default TCP client. Now I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to remove this and put it down here. And then we can say if client isn't null and the client's connected, then wrap it and we're done. And that should then give us, what is it? This.config.uri.port. Pardon me. Hey Peleus, how's it going? I'm going great. Basement Hacks, yeah man, I'm doing great, my friend. I am doing great. Living the dream, I've got my tea. It's a cracker of a day out there. I can't complain. Got you guys hanging out with me, we're doing some dev. Now what we should actually do is have some kind of timeout wrapped around this sort of thing, yeah? But that's something that we're going to come back to. Okay. So what I'm going to do, this is our resilient transport stuff for binds. So let's run this again. And this time we're going to run to completion. So that we can get UID, for example. Now what I'm going to do is BG exit-y, which should cause this to buff. There we go. And so here it's going to try, hopefully, and rebind. It's going to sit there and listen. Ooh, what happened there? That didn't do what we wanted to do at all, did it? Oh, I think I might know what's going on there. So when we set up a listener, how do we specify that we want the socket reuse thing? Because I'm guessing that's part of the problem. Real question is, not can you dev, but if you can dev with one hand while hanging off your woody. That's a very good question. I'm going to go with no. I might be able to bash out 1 or 2 lines of code before I actively pass out. Not Soraka W not learned. The answer to that question is that. Righto. Let's run that again. And then BG exit-y. Okay, so listener.start is what bailed. So why is that? Only one usage of each socket address is normally permitted. Ah. Is that because the listener... that might be because our stager in program.cs needs to kill off the listener once we've received something. So let's just check that. Where are we? Simple bind TCP. Okay, so do we go TCP listener.stop? I think that might be it. And then we would obviously need to do the same thing here. TCP listener.stop. Yeah, let's try that. I'm assuming that's got something to do with it. Asaf, thank you for the follow. Nice to have you as part of the viewership. Okay, let's try that again. exit dash y. Okay, that worked that time. So now if we run, if I fire up MSF again and then attempt to reconnect, hopefully the stuff that we've got baked in already that checks to see whether or not we're getting TLB packets versus stages will do its job. Let's clear all breakpoints. And hopefully it works. All right. That is working as expected, which is kind of cool. Doing its job. There are some messy components here, which I'm not going to lie, aren't particularly great, but there's not really a lot that I can do about it at this point. We might do a sweep through the code towards the end to clean out some various bits and pieces. Okay, so the next thing that we wanted to be able to do was handle more transport commands, right? I use a firewall that prompts to Allowed and I, and most of you will be able to delete my files locally. Well, this is just a bind TCP payload, and to be honest, they're not actually used that much anymore. But it's important that we provide it because we want to be in line with the functionality of the existing Meterpreters. So. But now it's basically done. So I don't really have to worry about it too much until we, yeah, I mean, these days with firewalls being configured so that you have a prompt for permission just to open a port, it's a little bit frustrating. But yeah, not all machines have that functionality. Some of them have it turned off. Some of them are old enough to not even have it in the first place. So, but next what I want to do is handle the transport command. So, is it transport? There's got to be a transport list. Here we go. So, we've got this core transport list, which we've already supported. And now what we want to do is have... What is it we want to have? We want to support the other transport commands. All right, so I'm going to go back to a reverse TCP at this point because I don't have to constantly restart the listener at this end. So let's establish, we're going to establish a session there. I can actually get rid of these now because we don't actually rely on them. The transport list. So the next thing that we want to be able to do is support the notion of adding transports on the fly. Okay. So let's just quickly exit out of this. We're going to go ag def command transport in lib. Oop, I can't type. There it is. Let's gvim that. Okay, so transport list we have supported. Now we want to be able to transport add. So we've got this client core transport add. So let's ag def transport add in lib, which is in client core, of course it is. So let's gvim that and client core. And we'll have a look at transport add. Okay, transport prepare request. Clearly I've got a few. Alrighty, so bind shouldn't have lhost set. Damn right it shouldn't. So it generates a URL and then it adds timeouts. And then it adds, what are we? Proxy stuff if required, type and URL. Okay, that gives us something to work on. So what we need first of all is a function called add, transport add. So let's go here, copy this function, and we'll change list to transport add. Ugh. Kind of tight today. Glass-wise, pretty much in every video on YouTube. Is it? I don't believe I've actually had a look. All right. So we need to, first thing we need to pull out is the URL, because that's going to determine, what is it called? Trans URL. Oh, actually the type. So we're going to add a type and it's going to have a URL. But the URL contains, it's interesting that we specify, see what's invalid transports, yeah. Ah, so we've got these constants. I forgot about these. I had completely forgotten about these. Which is good because it makes parsing significantly easier, you would think. The interesting thing about this though is that we're passing the type in, but the URL itself will have what is effectively the type in it anyway. Right, so to begin with, we know that we're going to get a URL and we're going to get a type. We know that if specified, we are going to get timeouts. Now, if we don't have timeouts, we need to fall back to the default values of the timeouts that we've got on the current transport. That's basically how that works. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check the type. Okay, so let's get the type out of the packet, which we know is going to be specified. We should probably do error checking later on, but for now we're going to go var transport type equals request.tlvs tlv type dot trans type. Get the first element in the list of potential values, and that should give us value as, I think it's a D word. Must be a D word. Okay. Now, when we go through this and we add transports, what do we actually do? It's already 10 past 10. Can't believe how long I've taken to get where I am. Value is D word, so we want to go load transports. Let me just see what this does. Yeah, so we need to basically load a transport config and get it to populate this stuff for us, which would make the most sense, right? We also want to be able to do all of this stuff as part of like being able to supply rather than doing it from a reader. So maybe what we should do is go public transport config, where we give it a URL, a uint comms timeout, uint retry total, uint retry wait. Okay. Now, basically what we want to be able to do is take this stuff that we've got and instead we want to go URL comms timeout retry total retry wait, Now, this means that instead of doing all of this here, we should be able to go D to space. See if this actually works. Does that make sense? So what we're doing here is for the version that uses this binary reader, it reads the parameters out and passes them to this constructor where all of this magic actually happens. And what that means is that on our side, when we're loading transports out of this transport add function, transport add. So once we get the type, in fact, we probably at this stage don't need to worry too much about the type. If we get the URL, which is request.tlv's tlv type trans URL 0 value as string. Now we can try and get comms timeouts along the way. I think we've actually got functionality that's default for that too. So we can go var comms timeout equals request dot. Is there? Did we put a tlv's dot try get? Is that our extension? Yeah, it is. If someone really wants to compromise computers, they should either focus on the biggest problem. Anyone mind explain real quick what we're making? Yep, I'm just going to do this again. Yeah, this is what we're making. Sorry to those who are having their chat spammed. We've got a few people asking today, which is not a bad thing. So we've got this try. We're going to go try get TLV value instead. And here we're going to specify a type. T default value. So if that doesn't work, oh, actually that's part of the problem, right? We don't actually know what. We would need to have like a try get value as string sort of thing with defaults. You're welcome. Yeah. I forgot about that. So, see, we have try get value as, if we did as string, then we basically end up doing this. But to be honest, I think it's probably worth doing this anyway. I'm gonna call this def, and we're just gonna go string.empty. Get list 0 value as string. So for the sake of having a completely thorough API, I'm gonna have raw, which is a byte array. I should probably change this so that it's return def. Can't refer to that as a constant, really, that's upsetting. So that's going to be value as raw. That's going to be def. Why can't I do that? Cannot implicitly convert string to byte array. Oh, okay. Okay, so what else have we got? We've got value as keyword, which is a u long. You can specify your own default to have 0. We can make some assumptions that if the value that we're expecting to extract as a timeout is 0, then it's effectively not specified. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay. We don't want raw, we want value as keyword. And then we've got the same with dword. Man. This tune all of a sudden has just kind of gone all mellow. It's kind of cool. Value as dword. Try get value as bool. This one is a little bit confusing. Actually, no, it does make sense actually. And we'll set the default to false. It might not actually ever be used, given that there's a ternary case, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And what's the last one we've got? There's another one, isn't there? Value is bool, dword, keyword, bool, dword, keyword, raw string. Oh no, we don't have another one. Okay, so if we come back here, try get TLV value as dword. There we go. TLV type dot transcoms timeout. We're going to have a retry total. Retry total. Retry wait. So they're the 3 timeouts and the URL and the type. What's your software dev background? Oh, my history with dev is a bit mixed, dude. Lots and lots and lots of different stuff before I got involved in security. And I don't just want to cough up my CV, but I've done everything from voice over IP, encryption, console games, massive distributed systems, high traffic websites, stuff as boring as ministerial correspondence. I've done 3D mine simulation. I've done software that's run on fighter jets. There's a bunch of stuff. I've been very lucky. I've worked on some very fun things, and Meterpreter is obviously one of them. And as you can see, Peleus loves it when I start talking about this stuff. But yeah, I've been pretty fortunate, and a lot of my dev stuff that I've done in the background is really good fun. And I'm very grateful that I had the chance to do it. Righto, so now we should be able to do this. Config equals new transport config, and we should be able to give it URL, comms timeout, retry total, and retry wait. So we end up with a config. And what else do we need? So from here, basically, we want to be able to create an instance of a transport based on that configuration. Now, we are doing that somewhere else in here, right? I'm pretty sure. Maybe we can aim to reuse that. Here we go. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it. Load transports. Transport config.create transport. Okay. Now, before we actually go ahead and do this, we need to just fill out a couple of other things. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that we had this. It's like we've done this before, and there are bits and pieces that we can review. This one I could probably recite. Yeah, that's true. You could. We have spoken about it a lot. Like I said, Peleus is probably sick of it. And now he's trying to look like he's nice. Don't let him fool you, people. He's a jerk. He's not really a jerk. Oh, the wife. Someone just walked past the window. Like, jeez. The wife is outside hosing the plants off. It's pretty warm here today. Transport add. Here we go. So for each one of these values, if they're 0, we kind of want to set them to what the current transport's configuration is. Right? So basically this is what we want to do. Equals, if comms timeout is 0, then set it to current transport.config.comms timeout. Otherwise, set it to whatever it happens to be. Okay, so we're doing that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Retry total. Okay. Retry. Wait. Then we know that we're actually in whatever's been specified as part of the add command we are using if it's provided, and if it's not provided, then we go with whatever the current transport says. Okay, now var transport equals config.create transport list.session. Look at that. We wrote the code for that magic. How cool is that? Now the previous call calls transport.configure. Now what does configure do? Let's have a quick look at what configure does here. So configure in this case says read some more. Now we may have further stuff to read from those particular transport packets, but we can delegate that in the same way that we're delegating it here, right? So if we do this, server session, where is it? Let's just quickly look at what this does. Configure. We don't need any other info. Yep, okay. So what I'm going to do with this iTransport, we've got a configure from a reader, but we're also got a configure from a request packet. Okay. Now in the case of the TCP transport, we're going to do exactly the same thing. Whereas in HTTP LAN, clearly we have more to do. Oops. Packet request. So this is what we're going to do here. We're just going to have request dot TLVs dot try get TLV as string TLV type dot trans proxy host. Okay, and that'll just return null if it's not there, right? Request.tlv request.tlvs. This is why we write functionality like this, because it makes it so much easier to reuse the bits and pieces. Request.tlvs.try get value as string tlv type dot proxy pass request.tlvs.try get value as string tlv type dot trans user agent request.tlv. We actually haven't implemented cert hash yet, which we probably should do. Try get value as string tlv type dot what is this? Cert hash. And that is not a string. That is a Try get value as raw. And custom headers, request.tlvs try get value, oops, tlvs try get value, tlv as string, tlv type dot headers. There we go. So then we can do exactly the same thing, but instead of calling configure, where are we? That's TCP transport. We want to be in here. So we do the same thing here. So we can go transport.configure. I see keep typing prot instead of port. Transport.configure, and we can give it the request packet. We could have even just given it the list of TLVs, but we'll keep it as the packet for now. And then we can go this.transports.add transport. Seems legit, doesn't it? I think it does. Okay, as part of our testing, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go back to bind. Let's build that. While that's building, for now, we'll just keep this maximized. All right, let's set up a listener and run. Okay. That's what we were expecting to see. So that basically says we have one transport and that's active. So let's do transport list dash V. You can see that none of these extra things are set because it wouldn't make sense anyway. Okay, so let's see what happens when we do this. We'll set a breakpoint on transport add. So this transport type thing here, we may not actually end up using that, and it's probably worth considering removing it completely. So if we go transport help, we can go add. Where are we at? Transport type. So let's add reverse TCP. L host is going to be this IP address here. Where are we? L port is lowercase p, which is going to be, now we're CLR2. Where's our CLR2 TCP handler? Verse TCP CLR2 is 4444. 4444 as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the retry wait to 20, but I'm going to leave everything else as it is. So retry wait time, and we can see is capital W. Let's set that to 20. So what I want to see is that the thing will add correctly. We'll see this value change when we add the new transport. I mean, this won't change, it'll remain the same, but the new one will have a 20 for retry wait, but we should see 3600 and 300 for comms. That's what happens. Okay, so transport type is 0, so that's the TCP. The URL, there you go, there's our TCP URL. Comms timeout is 0, retry total is 0, retry wait is 20. So here we should default to the 300, 3600, and we stick to 20. And now we create a new config. So we get the URL, and here we should see that the exception is thrown, and then we oh no, it wasn't thrown. Oh, that's interesting. Hang on a minute. There should be... Oh yeah, it's reverse, not bind. I'm such an idiot. Okay, so what happens when we try and create transport? It looks at the URI scheme and says it's TCP. Creates a new TCP transport. Configures it with nothing. adds it to the list. It's probably going to say that it timed out, which it didn't actually do. Boom. It worked. Did exactly what we wanted it to do. What's the inspiration behind recreating Meterpreter in C#? I did mention it in my blog post, and the best thing to do, if you haven't seen it already, is go and look at the first 2 streams. They're all archived on Vimeo and YouTube. But if you look at part 1 and part 2 of this series, we talk about that a fair bit. So rather than rehash that now, it has been covered in a bit of depth. So if you really want to know the answer, I would recommend that you go and watch those. Okay, so we are bang on 90 minutes, but I want to get transport next working. Actually, we haven't technically filled this out either, have we? Let's quickly make sure that these actually work. So we've got proxy host and cert hashes, but what I'd like to do, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I need to add a reverse HTTPS or something, don't I? So add reverse, let's do reverse HTTP. What port was HTTP on? CLR2 HTTP was on 4448. And we'll change, where are we? Retry total this time, which was 3600. Let's just make it 400. No, 4000. Now, you'll notice that the local URI for blah used when adding, changing transports with a custom LURI. Yeah, right. So, but behind the scenes, it should generate a new URL for us, right? Let's see what happens here. Transport type should be 1. URL is HTTP. Look how we've got the custom nonsense in here, that generated URL. Hopefully it's actually got the right payload. Yeah, no, yeah, that's totally fine, mate. But that's part of the reason why they're all archived, so that we can just go back through the backlog. Okay, comms timeout 0, retry total is set. So that's all working as we would expect. Transport list. There we go, there's the other one, which is cool. And we'll add HTTPS as well, just for the sake of being thorough. Now HTTPS is, where are we? CLR2 HTTPS is 4449. Now I'm going to change the comms timeout this time, which is capital C, to 200. I'm also going to set a user agent for this, which is, where are we? A for user agent. Leet hacks 1.0 for the user agent. I won't do any proxy related stuff just yet. Let's do that. I'm just going to let it run this time. And transport list -v. Okay, so we can see we've got a HTTPS with our Leet hacks user agent. And all of the other values appear to be working. Now, right now, we don't have the ability to manually go transport next, transport prev, all that sort of thing. But what we do have is resilient transports. So what should happen is when we bail, okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to terminate Metasploit, at which point the process of kicking over to the next transport should work, right? So let's go into server.cs, get rid of all breakpoints. And so when we change transport, you'll see we've got this packet dispatcher. Where are we? Packet dispatch loop bails out to next transport, right? So we should see a breakpoint hit just here when we bail out of this session. So exit -y. There you go. So we're going to the next transport. Now, before we go to the next transport, I'm just going to spin up Metasploit again. And let's see what happens. So, next transport. So we disconnect. We go to the next transport. Now, transport index should be 1 now. Which means the current transport points to... Which one is it? I don't even know which one it is. It looks like it's the next... It'll be the reverse TCP. Right? So then we should try and connect back. Is it connected? No. Is it bind? No. Let's try and connect. Now before, we'll just make sure it's all up. We should be able to connect. Wrap it. Play on. Boom. So it rolled over. Oh, hang on. Check this out. Why does it think this is the current one? How fascinating. Anyway, that's not the issue. Like clearly the transport that we're currently on is this one. So why is that the case? There must be an assumption that the transport that is listed somewhere, maybe it's in, hang on, transport list. Okay, so we go through the transports and we add them all. And then, where are we at? Update transport map. Result. So which one do we specify as current? Where are we at? Current transport URL matches the current URL. What is current transport URL? Ah, look at that. It's the first one. That's interesting. It's the first one that's spat out. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? So it's assuming that the first one in the list that we give it is the one that's current. So we're going to have to return them in the order in which they're actually going to be used, starting with the current one. So that's pretty trivial. We can do that. But before I do that, I would like to BG this and exit -y again. And we should be bailing to the next transport. And I want to see this come in, I would assume, on HTTP. That would be my guess. So let's see what happens. Ooh. It's not happy. Connect, add hook, receive packet. Okay, let's just see what the URI is. HTTP 448. Maybe the URI is invalid. Let's have a look at what the exception says. Object reference not set to instance of object. Really? Ah, hey, that's interesting. Isn't that interesting? So we don't actually have a web client. So we need to use our create web client function to make sure that that actually functions correctly. Isn't that fascinating? This is what testing is all about. Okay, so you can see what we've got here. This web client is a local variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to have a private web client, which is called web client. It's going to have a get. And we're going to go if this dot web client lowercase member variable is null. Oh, actually, you know what we should be able to do? We can just assign it this way. This dot web client equals this dot web client null coalesce operator create web client. Does everyone know what the null coalesce operator does? Any questions? because that's a super handy syntactic sugar thing. Yeah, of course, but why don't you explain it? Okay, so what we would normally do is if we would go if this.web client is null, then this.web client equals create web client. Okay, so basically what we want to say is if something is null, then do the next thing. So this double question mark says if this is null and only if this first bit is null, then invoke this second bit. So here we take this and we say, is it null? If it is null, then we create a new web client, and the result of this expression is either the existing web client or a new one, which we then assign to the web client. So that's effectively a NOP in cases where we already have a web client, and then we call return because then that just returns the web client that we've just created. So we're effectively going, if we don't have one, create one, store it, and return it in one foul swoop. So then when we go this, where are we? This dot web client, okay. When we're using it, we want that to be the uppercase version. Yeah. Same here. And that's okay. So that means that when we roll over our transports next time, it will be, the reason why we didn't have a web client that we were using for our base incoming requests is because we had assumed up until now that that was our first transport, and we were actually given a web client as part of that wrap call when Meterpreter first kicked off. So let's try that. We'll start again in the same scenario as we did before. So let's go run. Did I run it? I didn't. There we go. Have I got a breakpoint somewhere? Okay, so we're going to do the transport add thing. Is any of this stuff stored? No. I don't understand how the history of this thing works, hey? Where are we? Transport add. Let's add that one. Actually, no, let's do the... Yeah, we'll do reverse HTTPS. And then we're going to BG exit-y and run again. Let's see how much of this is barfing behind the scenes. Hopefully we'll see it. Hey, look at that. Attaching orphan stageless. It's encrypted. Transport list. There it is. All right, so the only thing that we've got left to do as far as adding and whatnot is concerned is when we do transport list, see how we go for each transport in transports. What we should do is go for var transport index in this dot transports dot, is it count? Nope, for equals 0. Transport index is less than that. Count, we can just go transport index plus. So here we're going to go, instead of transport get config, we're going to go this dot transports dot, sorry, this transport, so transport index, whatever we're currently referring to, plus whatever the current transport index is, right? So that's going to offset it, but then we need to mod it with the length to make sure that we wrap around. Mod this.transports.count. Okay, so that gives us the transport. And then we can get the config out of that transport, yeah? So that should mean that our transport list function should actually return the transports in the way that we would expect. Okay, let's build that. We'll do another quick test. Where is our transport add? So once this is done, we might kill things off. Easy exit -y. Okay, so that's sitting there listening, ready to go. Run. Transport list. Okay, that's a long URI. Okay, so exit -y, restart, simulate the moving to the next. Adding transport.next and transport.prev is actually pretty easy, so we might just do that pretty much immediately. Transport list. Hopefully the current tag now will be on the HTTPS. There we go. That's what we wanted to see. Cool, huh? Okay, next. Transport next. Not exactly surprising. So all we do is just send that packet, and behind the scenes, we do what we would expect it to do. The only difference is that we need to effectively bail out of the current session somehow. So we might, like when it comes to transport next and transport prev, they might actually be inline packet requests. So let's just quickly check how that's implemented in native. GitHub.com, Metasplit payloads. And then this should take us right up to the 2-hour mark, at which point I really do need to go because I have a job. Server. Where are we? Win. Server transport. Hang on a second. Let's just search for that. I would have expected that to be request transport. Maybe it's core. Next. Here it is. Base.c. Okay, remote request core transport next. Of course it is. So let's just see what this one actually does. Yeah, this one looks like an inline, doesn't it? Is it an inline? Inline rec. Okay, so it is an inline request, and this is how it functions. So you'll see we basically just go, if we go to the next transport when we only have one transport, then that's pretty stupid. Transports are the same, we're not doing anything. Transports are different, perform the switch. Next transport equals transport, next transport, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So in our case, implementing next is going to be pretty easy because we just want to return that we want to bail out of the loop and go to the next transport. But we haven't actually indicated which transport is the next transport. So what we do is basically say, can you please fail over to the next one when we actually fail? Now, where are we? Where's that packet dispatch loop again? Packet dispatch loop. So you'll see we've got shutdown, next transport. We should probably have two, where we actually have next And we also have previous. Okay. Does that make sense? Now, instead of transport index being 1, modded that. We actually want to go back 1. So I'm going to subtract 1 here. Right? But I'm also going to add to make sure that we don't go negative, because modding with negatives is a bit of a royal mess. If I could use a keyboard, that'd be great. This.transports.count. We're just going to make sure that we go back 1, overlap to the next, and then mod, and then we'll effectively have exactly the same functionality. So next transport, rev transport. Okay. So this time when we register these functions, we're actually not going to have we're not going to be using the same mechanism that we had before. These are actually going to be directly in line on the current thread, and that's what we're going to be returning. Okay, so what we do is we go transport. Instead of add, we're going to go core transport next. This is true because you'll see we're actually blocking. We're on the current thread. And then we're going to go transport next. This is super easy, right? Transport next. All right, so we don't actually need to pull any detail out of the packet. What we want to do is this. We want to go if this.transports.count is 1, then we basically just want to say you're an idiot. Packet, what is the packet result here? Packet result dot invalid data. But if it's greater than 1, then we want to do this. Result is success. And instead of continue, we want to go to the next transport. This is basically all we're doing. So let's just quickly go here. So we've got transport next. We've also got transport prev, right? And this is going to do the same thing. Transport next prev. Should be that simple. Does that make sense? Let's build that. And we'll see what happens. It may fail miserably. Okay. Now this time I'm gonna just deal with reverse TCP because I want to alternate between the. Oh, I suppose bind isn't really going to matter, is it? Let's go. Let's kick off another bind. We will. What you making? Something asynchronous. Here you go, Big Rick. That's what we're making. And right now, the feature that we're just fixing is, or implementing, is the ability to jump across different transports in our current rat. So that's the current bit of code that we're finalizing. I'm just adding transports. Okay, so let's make sure that's in transport list. Okay, so if I go transport next. Ooh. That worked a little better than expected. Sessions -1. Transport list. Okay, so we're on HTTPS now, which is cool. Now, this transport is technically at the end of the list, so I'm going to add a reverse TCP, which I did up here somewhere. TCP, I just don't want, I'm lazy and I want to copy and paste stuff. HTTPS is there. HTTP is there. So let's add HTTP as well. And where's the TCP one? It's got to be in here somewhere. Come on. Come on, show me. Would be, there it is. Okay, so if we go transport list. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so if we go transport next, what happens? Oof. Transport list. Okay, so we are definitely here. I don't think this is actually spitting these things out in the right order, to be honest. Seems a bit wayward, doesn't it? The listing order. Sessions -1. Transport prev. What does that do? Now I'm going to have to run this again to reconnect, yeah? Transport list, because that was the bind one. And if we go transport prev, we should get a reverse TCP coming back in. Look at that. It works. So we do have the ability to bounce across all of our transports really nicely. Transport prev. Oops. Sessions -1. Transport prev. Exit -y. Let's see if it rolls over. So you see here, it was connecting to 448, which is 448 is reverse HTTP. So we should see reverse TCP come in. Shouldn't we? Yep. Yep. There you go. Reverse HTTP. It works. So it works, and when it detected the failure of the transport, it rolled over to the next one. So winning. That's awesome. Okay, so we're pretty much bang on the 2 hour mark. I think we've had a few wins today. So let's have a quick recap. What is it that we did? We finalized. We added bind TCP as a transport mechanism on both the Metasploit and the Meterpreter side. And then we added support for moving resilient transports, including bind. We made sure that we handled URIs correctly in bind. And then we added transport add and transport next and transport prep. So the only thing that we've really got left out on the transport side is transport delete, which isn't that big a deal. And we can clean that up pretty quickly when we kick off the next stream. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. There's my 2 hours done. I've got work to do, places to go, people to see, etc. But yeah, thanks very much for joining in. It's always great to have people on stream chatting away and casting opinions and asking the questions. So thank you, Izzy, for being part of the show. And if you have any questions, then please ping me through all the various means on the internet. If you haven't jumped on Discord yet, jump in there and ask whatever questions you like, whether they're related to this or just general dev stuff. There's a lot of really cool people in there who are happy to answer questions. So please do that. The links are in the Twitch thing, down there, and you can put Bang Discord and whatnot into the chat if you want to. So thank you very much for joining in, and for the subs and the Patreons and all the support and all that wonderful stuff. I hope you all have a magic day, and in the meantime, be good to each other.